Horrible game by Mamelodi Sundowns. But beautiful CAF Champions League result. Because the one rule of African football is when you go away, you don't lose. That means getting the point, if that means getting 3, as long as you don't lose. And when you come home, you finish the business. That is the one immutable rule of CAF football in general. AFCON, CAF Champions League, CAF Confed. That is what you need to do, and that is what CARDOSO did here. Now, there's plenty of things that you can speak about with how Mamelodi Sundowns played. There's plenty of things you can speak about how MC Alger missed a lot of different chances that maybe they should have buried Mamelodi Sundowns. But these performances are no different to MC Alger coming to play Pirates 0-0 here, and then Pirates beating them away even though they had 22 shots and 5 on target. It's no different to the different performances we've seen over the years where ES Tunis or Wydad Casablanca play the worst football when they come and play away and they finish things at home. And maybe this is some of the pragmatism that you need as a club that's going to be playing the Champions League. It won't always be beautiful. It'll be ugly a lot of the time. But if the results are the results, it doesn't matter because you've done your work. Now, let's talk about the game. Mamelodi Sundowns is a little bit of a mess for me as a team right now. And I feel as though the big problem is coming from CARDOSO. I feel he's almost trying to compromise with what he wants to do and what he's allowed to do. And this is what I mean. If you look at Mamelodi Sundowns' midfield, Resinho, Allende, and Santos are the same player. They're all playing 6. They all want to occupy that space in the middle. And I think what's happening is that that's putting mokwena, who also wants to push up a little bit. We'll speak about why he's got a problem. Putting him under pressure, but it's also starving the guys up top. I think Mamelodi Sundowns genuinely needs to look at one of those 3 and say, gents, hardy, but one of you will have to sit down because we need a 10. We need a presence of a 10. I think Nuno Santos is meant to play in the 10 role, in that hole just behind Reyners and Matthews. I think he's meant to stay there, but because he's more of a 6, they tend to drift back in and they follow the ball and play next to each other a lot. You saw some of the 1-2s that were done there. And the knock-on effect of that is that you have a Matthews, you have a Reyners who don't play this football. The point of having a Reyners, the point of having a Matthews is to be able to stretch teams, but then make those incisive runs, those quarter runs in, the 45-degree runs, let's say, in behind, where that's where they've been so dangerous. But that was all based on having a 10 that was there to keep the guys busy. On a counter-attack, you run in, you try and pull one of the defenders, then you play that ball into either side. They either play the ball across or they score by themselves. That is how Reyners and Matthews had been scoring. But in this system, they don't quite know how to play, number one. And because Sundowns is playing so slow, by the time the ball is progressed to them, Sebavalil. Any type of mid to low block has already gotten back into structure, and you can't take advantage of an MC Alger's team that was very active going forward, even early on. I think Mamelodi Sundowns' problems with the defense continue, especially on the left-hand side. I've spoken about the left-hand side so many different times. That is where Sundowns struggles. And Divine Lunga was meant to be brought in. I think the idea behind it was that Divine would not be going forward, but he found himself like a Mudao. And what happens is that when Alger was hitting that counter, they were really isolating a Cupido, a thing that I always say. Whether it's Cupido, whether it's AB last year, whether it's Mvala. if there's a space that you can take advantage of, is that wide space. And unfortunately, Shem, that MC Alger's team doesn't have quality. I'm sorry, that's not a good footballing team. Everything they were done, they were well coached, they've got the spirit, but whenever they needed to play that final ball, there was a few of them in the first half where they played it out, completely out, instead of playing it in behind. And they don't have quite the pace to take advantage of that defensive setup of Kekan and Cupido. They don't have the pace to take them. Otherwise, if they had if Reyners and Matthews were on the other side, they would have scored 2 or 3 goals merely from the counter-attacking they were doing. I think, excuse me, I think the centre-backs need to talk a little bit more, because one of the big problems that Sundowns has right now, because they push Mudau and because they push Lunga up to the sides, they sort of take their centre-backs and take them wide. So what happens is, the moment you catch them on a counter-attack, one of those centre-backs has to jump. So let's say they're attacking on the left-hand side, Mudau's side. They're attacking down that side. It's a counter. They've won the ball back. They're countering. It's a transition. That centre-back has to push into the danger to try stop it. And if you beat them, the one centre-back on the other side is too far away. They have to run all the way back. The distance they have to go in order to intercept that ball, number one, is an issue. And then also, your right back is all the way up. So Nai Usaila has to run all the way back in, almost from behind, in order to catch that. And what that meant was that they were giving away a lot of fouls around the box, right? A lot of fouls around the box. And what's interesting about the fouls around the box is that I think the ref was very lenient with Mamelodi Sundowns in this game as the defenders, because there were a couple of chances, a couple of tackles there that should have been yellows, that maybe could have been a doxo call, right? And what I thought would happen was that Ulunga was going to be a little bit more disciplined on his side and sort of keep a 3 at the very least. So you have either Kekana, but mostly Cupido, in a central type of role, so that whatever happens, you can catch them out. What Sundowns had tried to do in the first half was drop Utebza far back in, right? Drop Utebza all the way back in order to create that 3 all the time. And Utebza was in trouble when he got that yellow card, was in trouble because he was covering as he was meant to be covering. So I think they need to work on that. But I don't know if Tebza has that same Kutsia thing in these type of games. So Kutsia really made Sundowns tick in previous years, because Ukutsia is not a player that likes to push all the way up. He's not a player that likes to go in, and he would go and come back, but his primary responsibility was defending, and he still had that centre back in him while being able to play the ball out from the back. What's interesting with what MC Alger did, and where you see that Rulani had thought about this game a lot and he understands this team, is that they stood off of Williams. So they said, you know what, Ronwen, have the ball at your feet, we're not going to push you. And the moment that he played the ball out, that's when they started pressing, similar to what Coach Eric Tinkler did to Rulani in seasons past, where he would sort of allow them to play in and sort of press them from the front back to their goals and win the ball back a lot in those midfield areas. Right? Or what Supersport, I think it was, did, where they just sat in a structure and they were just mirroring what Sundowns was doing and waiting for Sundowns to play that long ball. Because even though I said earlier that those guys are sixes, everybody's so far away from the ball when Sundowns is attacking. So they don't have that overload option. You know, they don't have that overload option that they used to have. Mudiba coming in, Kutsia coming in to interact with Alenda and Mokwena, and then that motion allowing them to get into the 10. They don't have that. And the reason why I say that Sundowns, I feel, is caught between two minds is, again, you have Reyners and Matthews, who made a career last season scoring goals from counters, fast play. Right? Where if they even think of trying to push up on Sundowns, they would just hit them immediately with the Reyners and Matthews in behind. But it doesn't help if there's two guys up top and you don't have an extra player, because these guys are playing too deep. In fact, sometimes Badlala Baboto, there was a passage where Resinho and Nuno Santo were playing with each other on the side, and they couldn't find that final ball. So, very interesting game, but like I said, sometimes you need to play this ugly. Sometimes you need to go all in with this so that you can get the point and go home. Now, to be fair to MC Alger's, they had some incredible chances that they missed themselves, where they should have scored, obviously, the ball over the top. And what they were doing was also exploiting that high line near Sundowns. They were triggering that high line a lot. And it's something I've said in previous matches, that there's a ball that you play just in behind the defense because you try and get Ronwen out as many times as you can. You can only sweep a keep so many times before something breaks. And what was interesting about the chance that MC Alger's got is that they did that false thing where you have some players who push up and hold the line, and when they pull back, they go through. Interestingly enough, that's what, if you're going to play Sundowns like this, that's what you need to do with Reyners, Matthews, and Santos. The goal that they scored versus Lupopo. Have Reyners and Matthews almost sit in between the centre back and the right back in that space, the centre back and the left back in that space, and then when they pull, that's when you trigger Nuno. But Ununo nae ufuna move. Now, a lot of people are going to ask about the late subs, and I really do feel like that's where Coach CARDOSO could have lost it, because he didn't commit all the way. I think he wanted to go steal it. And when he brought in Abu Tembazwan, he brought in Abu Sales, and he brought in all the subs that he brought in, I think it messed with the chemistry of what was happening on the pitch right now. It messed with some of that steal, and you could see Ronwen getting really angry. So CARDOSO nae, I think he got a little bit greedy towards the end. But this is exactly how I thought this game was going to play out. That it wasn't going to be the rip-roaring affair where everybody's going forward. I think it was just going to be a game where Sundowns comes in and says, you know what, pragmatically, these guys have not lost in Morocco in their league up to this point. They lost their first game last week. They're going to be looking for a reaction, right? They're going to be looking to try and catch Sundowns and punish Sundowns, right? So Sundowns is going to sit back for a lot of the game. They're not going to make this game exciting. It had shades of that game they played versus Rabat, AS FAR Rabat, where at some point both teams, well, Sundowns decided, no, you know what, guys, we've already done the job. We don't need to do this. Almost backfired there towards the end. But to end it off, I think RULANI's team, well coached, but they don't have the player qualities in terms of like some of the basics that RULANI needs for them to be like that. You can see why a lot of their results are 1-0 results. They're scraping by, and then when they face a good team that can score past them, they can only do the one goal, then they concede. You can see why. La Papambili, Agnabantu. Sundowns' case, really messy, but again, job done. Point in the bag. They've got 4. They're currently top of the group, waiting for what Al Hilal is going to do versus DR Congo. The Saint Lupopo. If you can handle the stuff going back home, then you're good. But guys, it's been great. Thank you guys for joining me. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye everyone. Don't forget to like, comment.